and welcome to this Tuesday, May 4th edition of the Island Stats Walk Down Memory Lane. I'm your host, Earl Basden, with co-host Dennis Brown, and we're joined by some former footballers in the women's field of our football development and also going on to national team duties of some sort. We have Terry Lynn Painter, Leslie Cherry White, as well as Siobhan Furbett. First of all, Dennis, kind of interested to have these three ladies on, as you had some time, you spent some time with them on the women's side duty, didn't you?
Yeah. First of all, good night, ladies.
Good night.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show. And Earl, I'll let you know these are three stalwarts in the rebirth of women's football in the late 80s, early 90s. Women's coaching was actually my first coaching tenure in football. That's where I got my feet wet coaching a team. When we brought together a team, it was called at that time Telecom. And I owe a lot to the women because they basically allowed me to make mistakes and to where I am today. So, that was my foundation, coaching Telecom. I actually coached them for 3 years, and I would say that we never lost a game when I was there coaching. So we were, a very successful team, a lot of talent. But at the end of the day, I'll let you know that I trained those women just how I train men. So, they had no choice but to be successful. So it was indeed a great pleasure to coach Leslie as well as coaching Terry because, like I said, they are stalwarts in bringing back women's football.
Who gave you the most trouble?
Nobody. It was a mutual respect from the players and the coach. You get respect. You have to give respect. So although at times I gave them some French words, but at the end of the day, it was about respect, and the end goal was everybody had the same view in mind, and that was to win.
Yeah. Leslie, what was the challenge like playing at that time? And really, a lot of the time, the women weren't getting as much attention playing. So, what was that? What was that? Those times like?
Well, I learned to play basically with the neighborhood boys. So it was great that Dennis started this, and Alicia wanted things to get going again. And I guess the challenge at the time was just before we got together with Dennis was just where to play. I remember in primary school trying to turn out for the primary school team, and I wasn't allowed. I'm not saying I would have made it, but girls just didn't play back then. I'm a little older than the other two, but we just weren't able to play back then. So.
And Siobhan, how did you find it first? Trying to get involved, because I know you played a lot with boys as well.
Yes, I played with boys when I was younger. I played with Hamilton Parish. And then around 1989, when the league was formed, there were like 10 teams in the league. And I had joined what was called Cedar Park Stars, which turned into Dandy Stars at the time. And then when I played for Dandy Stars, I played there for a few seasons. And then I moved to what we used to call Rude Girls, also known as Lady Cougars. But I also started playing on the golf course down St. George's where the old hotel is with my cousins, Kimmy Beans, Carla Smith. So I had a lot of great players around me to teach me the game.
Yeah. What about you, Terry? How and when did you get started?
Just like the other ladies, I started playing young. Like Leslie, I actually wanted to play with the boys in primary school down St. David's, but I would have made the team because I was better than a lot of the boys. but they just wouldn't allow us to play. But I did play in the neighborhood, and like Siobhan, I had some really good players in our neighborhood because we had at the time Dale Fox, Austin Swan. These guys were ended up playing Premier League, and Matthew White, and we played like every day. And then I was fortunate enough when I went to St. George's, Cal Deal, my first year, he let me play with the boys, and I actually ended up playing on the boys on this team and playing at National Stadium. So that's where it started. And then I went on to play with Devonshire Colts, uh, minor, no, Bantams under David Furbett. Ended up playing Bantams and juniors. And then the women's league started. And I was one of those into starting a team in the Eastern End. So we ended up starting a team that became Herbie's Angels. And then once Herbie's Angels fielded, Leslie and I played for Telecom, and then it was all over because we just was the two best players around. Nobody could come. I took a corner, it hit Leslie's head, it ran in the girl. That's one thing I'll never, ever, ever forget.
You mean she didn't head it?
But I tell you, Leslie and I on corner kicks, 75% of our corner kicks were girls.
No, the way you said it was the ball actually hit her in the head.
No. She put her head there.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm just making sure.
We don't call her Cherry for nothing.
Dennis?
Yeah, I would. This question is for all of you. We're talking about football. Did you guys play any other sports coming through before you got into football? I know what you played, but just let the public know what you did.
I'll start here.
That's funny. Well, I played football, cricket, softball, track and field for Bermuda. Also started another sport that I'll just leave alone, hockey, and just walked away from that because it was just too much on my plate. And even when I made Carifta, Mr. Swan actually gave me a choice, either play football or do track. And I tell him if I have to stop playing football, I'm not doing track. So he told me if I got injured, I wouldn't go to Carifta. And I got injured the week before, but didn't tell him.
Well,
And ended up winning a gold medal in that Carifta. So yeah, I've done quite a few sports.
I played netball, cricket. I did track with Pacers when I was younger, and also was involved with dance at United Dance Productions. Well, I started at Jackson's and then moved to United Dance Productions. So I've had a very athletic career.
I participated in as many sports as I could in primary school. Unlike Siobhan, I wasn't a dancer, but my mom actually started a dancing school with Sal Hodgson, I think, in the hopes that I would have some kind of dance ability, but my feet were too big. So I went on actually to swim competitively, and that's basically how I went to university. I was interested in swimming, and then in my third year of university, the football or soccer coach, he tried from year one to get me to play football, but I wasn't really interested because at the university you sort of pick a sport, and in my third year I ended up doing both. And then I got injured, so I had to give up swimming, and then I played out my last 2 years playing football. But I also sort of was in volleyball, basketball. I did some running, distance running with Clive Long actually years ago. But we had to do 400 repeats, and I'd rather do those in the pool than on the track, unfortunately.
Yeah, Dennis.
Okay, so the next question is also for everyone. Who were some of the people that you looked up to in football in Bermuda when you were playing, whether it be male or female? Anybody?
I looked up to Carla Smith mainly as a player. I didn't really have a favorite female player. When we started as the other lady stated, telecom was a dominating force. And when I had moved to Rude Girls, we were so young. I remember losing to them 10-0, 9-0. And it wasn't until I came back from college, and most of us who were playing for Rude Girls at the time, when we returned from college, that's when we really started to dominate the game.
Coming up, I guess I went to Somerset Trojans games and Coolidge Bell, Kevin Bailey, guys like that. But when I used to watch games in town, it was more of Frankie Brewster because he played, my position, or I played his position, and we both went up on corners. And in fact, my nickname for a while, some people out of the crowd, I don't know who they were, but used to call me Frankie at times.
So you used to watch Somerset games, and then what? Didn't look at the number 4 you used to play for Somerset?
Yeah, I can't mention you though. You're on there, right? Yes. How could I miss that? Right? I didn't go to. All right, black one.
Terry?
Funny because coming up, I would have, I definitely would have. I was playing striker. I was always a striker, but when Harvey's Angels started, we had Bootsy, and Bootsy couldn't play anywhere else. So Herbie pushed me down the back, and then I was like, I'm gonna be like Dennis Braun. Dennis is a clogger. Nobody's getting past me. And then people start calling me Rocco, and then it went to Rocket. So I would say Andrew, Herbie, Dennis, and Lance. I really like Lance. I liked Paul Pierce. It's funny, I liked a lot of defenders, but I always wanted to be an attacker. But when I started playing, I used to say, I'm getting bended like Beckham. So I always wanted to play in the midfield. I wanted to take the corners. So actually, it's funny because both of my favorite female players are because I used to love playing with Leslie and Siobhan. I used to always say, give it to Ninja. And when I played a gangster, I used to tell her, Ninja, don't try that on me. So, the two players that I would say I really admired when I played with are actually Leslie and Siobhan. Is funny.
When you lot got like heavily involved, you said 10 teams starting and the like. What made the difference when you had all those teams and basically it was okay? So eventually Telecom started to win it all, but other teams started to get stronger around the league. What was those times like?
I would say that we started out with the 10 teams, and I was lucky enough to be a member of Telecom, and thankfully Charlie Marshall sponsored us. And then having someone like Dennis coach us and Derek Thomas, originally. And I think we were really competitive, and there were a lot of girls teams. And when we had to come under the umbrella of clubs, it seems like where the team sort of fell short, or the numbers went down. And I mean, the quality was still good. Yeah, Telecom might have been, forced to be reckoned with, but I never wanted to face Ninja, Siobhan, Nikita, and Keita Dill never wanted to. Don't let either of them turn. And Keita's amazing left foot. So I think it was good quality all around, and we were fortunate enough also to bring a couple of teams from overseas to come and play. And then with Dennis, we got to go to Atlanta for a tournament, which exposed us as well. I just wish we had more opportunities back then.
I think when we went under the clubs, we actually done ourselves an injustice, because I just felt it was a better environment when we were Telecom, Ruker, Cedar Park, the Curve. The environment was just better. We played all our games at Devonshire Rec, who sponsored us to use the field, and it was just so much better. For me personally, we used to get sometimes 500-600 people the game, Devonshire Rocky used to be like rammed them. He was like, what's going on here? And then when we went under the clubs, they kind of backed off quite a bit. But I think that's a lot because I think we, instead of developing, we focused more on winning. And just for clarity, Telecom didn't win all the games because I think Herbie's Angels gave them a run for the money.
No, I never lost. I never lost.
Well, you might have left by them,
In
but
3 years, yeah, I probably left.
And
But
when,
yeah, Siobhan.
yes, like I was saying, we took a lot of licks from you, but once we matured and developed as a team, I don't
Yeah,
think you guys were able to touch us after that point.
yeah, for real. You had I remember you guys when you first came in, like you said, you were young. Physically, you guys weren't, up to, the physique like Terry and Leslie, and we had so much talent in that team. People like Nicole Jones, who, Claudette, Janice Hankey. Um, we had we had some talent in that team, and early on, like you said, you girls were young, like 14, 15, playing against these guys. So naturally, we were, fortunate to win. But like you said, when you got a little older now, when you got 21, 20, you girls definitely dominated for a few years. So my next question would take me to, or before I get to that question, I want to also congratulate Alicia Zul because she had the vision to bring this league to fruition. Like we talked about it, for months and months, and she had the passion and the vision to bring the league to fruition. To Siobhan, um, I saw you come through as a youngster. One of the things that I looked at was that you possessed great speed and silky skills. Like, where did that come from? Like, where was that harness to?
Like I said, as when I was younger, just playing with my cousins on the golf course, and the boys didn't ease me up, and so in order for me to not get kicked or hit, I had to learn how to maneuver my body to be able to compete with them. And thankful for Carlos and Kimmy Beans and my cousin Raymond Spencer. These boys really harnessed their skills for me.
Did you play? Well, which school did you go to overseas? And let tell the people what your
So
position, what your
when I
position.
went to school, I actually had received a football scholarship for Anderson College, but I decided not to take it at the time. And while I was in school in Atlanta, I played in an outdoor league, and it was full of players from a Division One team from North Carolina. And the girls that I played with there taught me a lot about the game. So as I was growing, so when I used to come home, at first I was playing with Dandy Stars, and I had a strike force with Demina and Josette Grant. We were three speedy people going forward. And then when I moved to Rear Girls, while I was in school, my teammate and my roommate, Kiana Saunders, or Balberta, and Shalita De Silva was also playing on that team with me. But the girls from North Carolina taught me a lot about the game at the time. And so when I came back on my Christmas breaks, I was able to sort of implement the things that I was learning. I can remember Vance Braun, and he was coaching us at the time. He used to say to me at Christmas, well, yes, seasons ended overseas, so I'm just going to give you to the first half. If you don't score a hat trick in the first half, then I'll bring you off. And I
Oh,
wanted to play. And so naturally, I would go out there and score my hat trick. And at the half, he'd say, okay, well, you can stay on the field.
wow.
He used that mindset, he used that psychology on me all the time. But I think it helped me to get a hunger for scoring goals. So I'm thinking for that.
Yeah. I was going to ask, who were some of the other influences as far as coaching wise that kind of pushed you ladies to where you got to? And we'll start with you, Terry.
Mines would be, it actually started in Trinidad with, he later became the Trinidad national coach with Robbie. He was named Robbie, Coach Robbie. I don't even remember his last name. I was the youngest player on the women's team in Trinidad. And that's when I came back, and Coach Furbert allowed me to play with Derbyshire Colts. So David Furbert just encouraged me, and the guys didn't ease me up, but they did protect me when I played. And then I went on. Of course, I had Vance, I had Dennis, and I also had Herbie Bascom. Herbie was the one that encouraged me to play sweeper, because with Colts I always either play a winger or just inside that strike. I never played on the back. Herbie made me play on the back, but Dennis, he wouldn't let me wear number 4. He made me wear number 5. Because that was his number. And so then moving on, and then dealing with Dennis and Herbie, and then it was, I learned quite a bit from Vandal Furbert. So, and then, I've had some really good advice along the way. You, Earl, you coached us girls for a while and taught me a few things, as well as Clifford Roberts. I mean, we had a police team that didn't win a game the whole season and ended up winning the FA Cup. So it was a learning curve along the way, and it was a lovely experience. And most of the guys, their first time, I'll never forget, at PHC, the president of the BFA, Mark Wade, he started coaching girls, and he was like, these girls are off the chain, and it's not an easy task. But I've had some really good coaches along the way. I can't say any of them were bad, because I learned something from every single one of them.
Well, my first coach after university was Dennis, and Derek Thomas as well. I was fortunate enough also to be coached by Andrew, and I actually did a coaching course with Andrew Bascom, and that was an amazing experience as well. And Albert Casey was another one of my coaches. And then when I started teaching at Soltis in '91, John Beard became a big part of my learning curve. So yeah, I had some great ones too. I had a lot of fun when we played with Dennis and Derek. They kind of balanced each other off, so it was a lot of fun. And my university coach taught me quite a bit as well.
I had Paulus. He coached Rear Girls for many, many years. Albert Casey also was there. Andrew would come by, especially during the preseason, and he would coach us. Vance then took over coach with Paulus, with Lady Cougars. And I had Dennis when we traveled to Atlanta for that tournament. And it was a wonderful experience. So I've had some very good coaches and teachers along the way as well.
Can you give us a moment in a game that you would never forget, because either you done something or someone else on the field done something that kind of made you either chuckle or say wow? And I'm gonna come back to you, Siobhan.
Okay. So I remember playing PAT out the rack one Friday night, and I remember Vandal Furbert was on the balcony, and so he was watching the game, and so we had a bet going on, Renisha and I, and a few of my friends were on the bank, and they had a sign that said "Shake 'em Shay," and they had another sign that said "Rip 'em Way." So it was a competition between us. But in that game, I ended up scoring. It was 0-0 at the half, and in the second half, I ended up scoring 5 goals in like a 19-minute span. So that would be my most memorable game, I would say.
Whoa.
Okay. Leslie?
Probably my most memorable and embarrassing goal was when I played on a summer team in Nova Scotia, 1990, I think it was. I scored an amazing header, but it was in my own goal. So that was probably the most memorable and unpopular move that I made. Another one was during our conference championships when I was at Dalhousie, and a girl was tugging on my shirt the whole time, and she said, "Cherry, I got you. You're not getting that ball anywhere near me." And I had a corner taker at Dalhousie who was just like Terry. I could basically close my eyes, run to the near post, and the ball would be there. And I probably did close my eyes, and I headed to the near post and went back. And Cherry's not going to do what? And we end up winning the game. So.
Terry?
I would say my most memorable was actually the FA Cup with Prospect at National Stadium. I was like just inside the halfway line, and the ball dropped, and I saw the keeper off her line and just hit it. And as soon as I hit it, Clifford was our coach. He said, "That's a goal," and I heard it. And we ended up winning the game over Dandytown 1-0, because after I scored, I went on the back and I told Todd at the time, I said, "Todd, you won't be getting no girls today." And we ended up winning, but we had the coach, I don't know why, he didn't bring her on until like the last 20 minutes. So for the last 20 minutes, my job was to make sure Todd did not get the ball in the goal, and we ended up winning 1-0 and won the FA Cup. And then I think it was one of the first corners I took with Telecom, and it just hit Leslie's head. Leslie was like right there, and it seemed like it looked like it came from my boot to her boot, but it actually came off her hair. It looked like textbook, and I just felt like I could pick this girl out anytime, and then we just formed this relationship. And as much as they tried, I could just pick out Leslie, and it was so nice to play. And then, when we played one time, I remember giving Shavonna through ball, and she spun on somebody in Atlanta. And I was like, wow, it's over now, because they ain't catching her. So, I've had some really good moments in football.
Dennis?
Yeah, old ladies, tell us some of the quality teammates that you played with, when you either played for Telecom, Red Girls, Cedar Park. Tell us some of the some teammates that you played with that people may not be aware that they did play football back then.
Well, one I played with and one I played against. Well, Terry says I played against her too when she was at Herbie's, but nothing like playing with Terry Lynn down the back. Arlene Wilkinson was another one.
Yes.
Amazing defender. Playing against Ninja as a forward. If you let her spin, that was it. Janice Hankey, amazing. She also played against me at university. She went to Acadia. She was amazing as well. Cassie, Dennis has already mentioned a lot of the Telecom players, but I remember Wayne Nisha. I think when Babs came along, I was old and was leaving the game when she started playing. Nikita, oh gosh, there's a lot of them out there. Shawnee Smith, lovely playing with her and against her. But there's a lot of them out there. And like I said, I wish we had the opportunity early on, because I think we might have been able to put Bermuda on the map in women's football, with the players that we had way back when.
So most of these players I either played against or ended up playing with on the national squad. So Stacey Babb, playing against her, Rainisha, Leslie, I always respected her as a defender. So I had to pick where I wanted to be in order to get around her. Nicole Jones, Shanette Pirot, who played at Dandytown. Nikita Deal played on the same team with me at Rude Girls. Erica Russell, Ebony Burgess, Sakina, Demina, Josette. It's so many.
Yes.
And especially being on my Lady Cougars team, the whole team was great. But I'm going to point out Keisha Barcho, because Keisha was a defender. And in training one day, she dropped me. And so that was a learning experience for me. So it taught me how to deal with people like Leslie once I actually got on the field. So I really had a lot of great players that I played with and against.
Mm.
Some players that I think people may not know about, like Pamela Pace. Unfortunately, early in the start of women's football, she got in an accident. But Pamela, who we call Bootsy, she was like something that you just wouldn't see. She was
Okay.
good, hit the ball clean. Um, Kelly Trot, these.
She's having a bit of audio problems, but we'll get her back in a little bit. Um, Siobhan, when you moved over to the Van Rude girls, what was the idea, or what was the reason behind moving there from Dundee Stars?
Because I'm competitive. And when I was at Dandy Stars, the majority of the players, it was more like just a fun kick tour. And so I moved because I wanted to be in an environment that was a little more serious about the game and where I can grow and develop a bit more. And so that's why I transferred at the time.
Hmm. Dennis?
Okay, as the years went on, one of the things Licia and I talked about was, because I always believe in exposing our players, overseas. We may get comfortable here to think, well, all that here in Bermuda, but one of the things I like to do is get outside of Bermuda and expose our players, which took us to a select team that went to Atlanta. Um, and I thought the team did exceptionally well in the tournament. So you guys tell me, how did you feel about, going, to another jurisdiction to play against, international players?
It was great. I'm, as I already mentioned, a bit older than these other two, so I had already played at university. I played there from '84 to '87, I think. So I had been exposed to some competition overseas already, but I think we did a great job. It was an amazing group of girls. I really enjoyed the camaraderie. We just got along so well, and the competition was amazing. But what I found the hardest was playing in 100% humidity and 104 degrees temperature. And I do remember during the games we had to take water breaks, which I hadn't experienced before because Halifax, Nova Scotia is cold country. So we were worrying about ice chips on the field, not how hot it was. So I did find that the most uncomfortable. But I thought that, we played really well as a team. We just gelled. And I mean, on and off the field, it was just an awesome group of people, as well as the coaching and managing staff.
Terry, I'm going to come back to you so you can finish about Bootsy and then go on to answer Dennis's question.
Yeah, like I was saying, unfortunately, Bootsy got in an accident, but she was definitely one of the players that very few people would have seen. Cassandra Bales,
Yep.
even Cassandra Trott used to play, and a lot of people don't know that. We had some players that played. We had a Gaynell Sharif, Gaynell and Lenora Maloney. I mean, Gaynell used to put her legs straight up in the air to bring down a ball. He was like, Gay, you can't do that. Gaynell, Tracy Sharif, the Francis sisters, Lisa Richardson. We just had players, and that's why when Siobhan first started, I was actually the youngest player on Herbert's Angels. That's kind of why I didn't have a say to where I played. And so when Siobhan came along, these girls were actually athletes, so they played other sports. They weren't just footballers; they were athletes. They played netball, softball, volleyball. So we had some really good athletes that played, and they just, Gaynell, Tracy, and the Francis sisters. We even had Lindy Davis, really big girl, but played right back for us. She weren't the fastest, but she got the job done.
Mm.
So we had some players that wasn't your typical athletes, and some players that were generally really good athletes, just adapt to playing football.
Mm.
And what was Dennis's other question before I got cut
The
over?
experience of playing overseas.
Oh, the experience of playing overseas. I think I have traveled with quite a few teams, and I would say the team that went to Atlanta was one of the best teams unity wise. We just clicked, we got along on and off the field. We didn't fuss, we just had a ball. And I've traveled with softball, I've traveled with football, but that team, I think Dennis and Derek were the right combination for the group of girls we had. And I did Aunt Lisi go with us?
I believe, yeah, she went.
I think Aunt Lisi went with us as
Yeah, she
well.
went.
So we had that balance. And we just had fun. We had fun. We played football, and surprisingly, we upset quite a few teams that had been around a lot longer than us. But because we had natural athletes, but like Leslie said, that was the hardest I've ever played football. Never taking 15-minute breaks. After 15 minutes, we had to take water breaks because it was like 102. We're like, we should be playing football. Yeah, but other than that, that was oh gosh, that was a lovely experience.
Yes, I enjoyed that experience. It was the first experience I had at playing football on an international stage. And like Terry said, it was so hot. I can recall running to the van to try to take a nap between games because it was so hot. It was just draining. And I think I was like the youngest or one of the youngest. Damina and I were the youngest on the team at the time. The rest of Terry and Leslie and the rest of the players were a lot bigger than us. But skill-wise, I think that team would have been, if that team was a national team at the time, would have been one of the best national teams Bermuda has had.
Mm. Now, Dennis, I'm going to ask you because I experienced it as well. When working with the ladies, they're more open to anything the coach wants them to try, at least try, aren't they?
Yeah, I would say, and I tell anybody this right up to today, ladies have less of an ego than males when it comes to coaching. You got some males, you can't tell them anything, but the ladies, they were like a sponge. They take all the information in, and there were no egos. Like even in all my coaching time coaching the women, I never had to deal with egos and I know this, I know that. So that's the biggest difference about the women are more receptive to taking information.
And it's funny you should say that because there were times where I would have the women and the men with prospect training together, and the men would be complaining, but the women would just go along and do whatever's asked of them, and to the best of their ability. And 9 times out of 10, they were doing it a lot better than the guys were doing it. Siobhan, when you talk about the people that helped you come along the way, what would be the one thing you would always want to pass down from what you learned at a young age?
Well, at a very young age, I learned a lot of ball control and how to dribble, pass, and shoot. So a lot of my days playing on that golf course, that's what was taking place. And so when you master your technical skills, once you start learning the game and the tactical side of it, it becomes a lot easier. So I would say, and even when I coach now, like a lot of the session is drilled at doing all of the tactical stuff, passing, shooting, dribbling, all of those things. And once you master those things, you understand the tactical side of whatever your coach is doing, you become unstoppable.
I was not one of the most skillful players. I basically got my learning with the neighborhood boys, and then at Work Academy, Janice Henke and I always ran down to the field to play with the boys. And at that time, we weren't allowed to play with footballs, so we brought our own tennis balls. And playing with a tennis ball, as you know, is a lot smaller, and you had to learn to use the inside of your foot, the outside of your foot. You couldn't get away with toe poking it. So basically, those are the skills that I learned. And then I was not the fastest player, so I think what could help and what I learned from it is just trying to read the game and anticipate. So if you can read where the ball's going and try and get a head start, I have no hope right now doing any of that. But get yourself in the right place at the right time. And the other thing too, and I know there's a lot of medical information out there about heading the ball, and people are, basically it's damaging us, and that's probably what's happened to me over the years. But heading is another one, or at least learning to control the ball out of the air. I think that's important as well. And girls are more timid to try it than the men. And like I said, now with all the medical statistics and stuff, it's more frowned upon than when I was doing it.
You're muted, Earl.
So, Terry, I was asking about what advice would you have for someone of all the things you've learned over the years? What would be the message passing down to someone that's kind of just starting out?
With any sport, I would say be a student of your craft. Learn, study. If you want to play sweeper, then go online and look at some of the best sweepers in the game. Listen to your coaches. And the most thing, particularly now, what I see with younger players, let's try to perfect your technique, because technique is important. Everybody thought I was the strongest kicker and this and that, but it wasn't. I just had really good technique. So when you have good technique, you can kick the ball further naturally. And for some reason, I naturally had really good technique. So I was able to kick the whole field. Learn the game, be a student of your sport, and you definitely benefit.
Siobhan, you wanted to add something to that?
Yes, the other thing I learned, and I learned this because I lived next door to Corey and Ricky Hill. And so we used to have little scrimmages in Lewis Virgil's yard almost every day after school. And so those boys used to rough me up. They would put me in the goal, kick the ball at me. And so I learned mental toughness from them. And so when I started to play against the girls, I had no fear of running at defenders because I had done it so often as a young girl playing against the boys in Lewis's yard. And so the mental toughness of the game was instilled at me at a young age. So once I started playing and I put all the pieces together, I was able to just go.
Dennis, I'm gonna remember this.
Yes, sir. That's the Atlanta tour. Yes.
Okay. A lot of looking sharp there. Yeah. All right, Dennis, your turn.
Okay. One thing I liked about all of you, and one of the things I disagreed with Leslie, she said she didn't have any skill, but one of the things I put on my paper about her qualities was that she was one to read the game, and that's a skill. You don't have to be fast, but you are very, very a good reader of the game, in your position. So that's a skill in itself. All three of you possessed a different level of passion. Where did that come from? Where did that drive to succeed come from? Whether it be in different sports. I mean, Leslie was an international swimmer, Terry, track and field, and the other sports, and Siobhan, the other sports, as well as dance and ballet or whatever. So where did that drive and the will to win come from?
Okay, I guess I'm leading this off.
Yeah.
I could honestly say I just developed. I just hated to lose. I didn't. I mean, I don't recommend that for my students that I coach now, but I just did not have a desire to. I hated to lose, so I always worked extra. I used to run from football training to the track, and Siobhan could tell you when we play cricket, I was training on the days that we were not training because I just had this desire. I wanted to be the best at what I done. I always wanted to be, no matter what they said, that this person was good. So I just had a desire to be really good at it. Because, and I think it comes partly from not wanting to disappoint your teammates. I don't want to be the one to make the mistake that cost us. So with the individual sports, it just carried on. I mean, my first career, I bawled my eyes out because I just wasn't throwing well. But fortunately we had a break, and once I put it together, it's like I don't want to come second. I want to win.
Leslie?
I was swimming, and I guess was passionate about the swimming and the football. But unlike Terry, I guess I was competitive, but coming in second was okay. And I can remember my mom and dad, saying to me, just try and come first, just try and win. And it wasn't that I wasn't trying, but it didn't bother me not to come first. And then, Terry's talking about the individual sport versus the team. Swimming, it's quite a lonely sport to train up and down, but some of my best friends are still swimmers that I swam with years and years and years ago. And it was just nice to be a member of a team sport. And football, I enjoyed basketball, I enjoyed volleyball, but there was just something about football. And I did grow up as a tomboy, and now I can put the tomboy skills to work. But just the camaraderie with the football and the teamwork, I guess, is what made me keep going with that. And with swimming, I was forced to stop because of injury. So I don't know how long I would have carried that on for.
Siobhan?
Like Terry, I didn't like to lose. I knew if we lost the game, I would be up at night. So I always worked hard to make sure that didn't happen. But I was able to accept the loss. But at night, when I was alone, I would replay the game over and over to try to figure out, okay, what could I have done? And I've just always been competitive. When I was in high school, I was in the same year with Devar, Sean Gooder, and Clay Smith, and that team was undefeated. That particular team was undefeated for the entire year, and just the drive that they had, and I used to just play around with them all the time, and I just always wanted to get better and work hard at everything that I was doing. So whether it be at Napo when I was training track with Pacers, I trained under Jerry Swan. I just worked hard and always had that inner drive to move forward.
Each of you have had some chance to give back in a coaching capacity, or teaching capacity. What has that been like for you now that you're kind of stepped away from the playing part of the game, but you're giving back in the coaching aspect, no matter what sport it is? And I'll start with you, Siobhan.
Well, as a teacher, I'm with students all day, but for coaching, I started coaching. My godson started to play for Dandytown, and Cal had sort of revamped the whole youth program out there, and so they asked me to come and coach. And so when I said yes, I was coaching little peewees. They were like under 5, and so that was the team that had Daly Eve on it, Trey Mendes, and I actually coached those boys from the age of 3 right up until they were under 17s. So I coached them for years, and watching them develop and then passing on my knowledge to them and actually being able to see them executed in games was really fulfilling. And so I coached them, and then I started working with the senior team. I'm currently the manager of the senior team, but to watch them play in the senior team, and when Joe Ma was coaching, helping him to understand what makes players tick, what makes players push hard, or what makes them shut down, and watching Dale move on, becoming a national team player. I had some really good players that I coached from tender years: AJ Smith, Terrence Vale, as I said, Dale, Keldre Burgess. I had a really good team of players that I can say I actually developed.
Good stuff. Terry?
Yeah, like Siobhan, I also do with my job. I also do work in the school sometimes as well. But I think coaching, because I coached a little football, I coached a little cricket, but my main coaching has been in track and field. And actually, the one of the first athletes that I decided to coach personally was Tiara DeRosa, and she recently graduated with a double major. You know, she's going on to graduate school. She's just outside of qualifying for major events. So my goal was to coach these students as a student athlete. So I want you to get a scholarship and get an education. If you choose not to take it to the next level, I'm fine with that as long as you get something out of it. Because I was fortunately, I had was offered a few scholarships but didn't go due to different dynamics, and I just never want to see that happen to another child. So I have quite a few youngsters coming through, and they're academically very sound. So hopefully we can develop some stronger athletes. And I think our biggest thing is making our athletes stronger mentally so they can deal with the issues that come along. I mean, Tiara is a high flyer. She was shy, didn't like talking to people. And now, if you see Tiara, I've watched this young lady develop from 13. You know, she's 22. She's borderline a world class athlete. And she's also got 2 degrees and going on to get her master's or doctorate in engineering. So, you know, that's just so rewarding just to see that. So I have quite a few students now that are coming through, and they're really high flyers. They're maintaining a 3.5 and higher GPA. So the goal is to make better student athletes coming out of Bermuda, because we've had too many that were bypassed because of their academics.
Leslie?
My coaching comes more through at Soltis, part-time. So my football coaching is with the middle school girls, so 11 to 12, 13-year-olds. And I guess the biggest joy I get out of that is, first of all, seeing the girls turn out. Like this year, COVID aside, we had 22 girls that were training, and really we had nothing to train for, but they wanted to come out. So for me, it's just seeing them gain the confidence through sport, and, you know, not being able to kick the ball properly or the right technique. And then by the end of the year, they're actually playing in a game and being successful with that. I've already also coached a little bit with swimming, more teaching of swimming than coaching of swimming. But like I say, most of my coaching comes from within the schools, and I do volleyball as well. And it's just watching these students just grow more so socially and confidently through the sports.
Dennis?
So all of you play football in your day. What are your opinions on, because I think they're making strides in women's football now. What are your opinions on the state of women's football today?
I'll come back to you, Leslie.
I think that we're making great progress. I think Bermuda's got a good team in place. I've just recently joined the women's committee under our chairperson, Charisse, and we've got an amazing group of women. on that committee, and I've come in as of late, so I'm still catching up with everything. But there's some passionate ladies on that committee, and CONCACAF have got a hand in trying to promote the women's football. So I agree with Ninja. I think that if we had the same group now, we'd be quite competitive, and hopefully we can get a level of women out there who can compete. Not necessarily worldwide. That would obviously be an ultimate goal, but I think we're getting there, and I think we're in the right place for making strides. And I have a lot of time and respect for what Nikita's doing with the program, as well as the president of the BFA and any of the coaching staff that are helping the women get where they are. And I think it's a great program, and hopefully we could just keep going forward.
Siobhan?
I think from what I've seen, they have a good group of players. The current, what they would consider the national team players, under 20s and younger, a lot of little girls are willing and want to play football right now. So I think that is the plus, because they have a place where they can go and do that. And whereas when we were their age, we were playing in our backyards. I think in order for it to even go further, I think it's important that they develop an actual women's league, so that these players are playing week in and week out in a competitive way. I know they usually play against the boys when they're getting ready to travel, but I think they would be even better if they were playing on a consistent basis. So hats off to those that are working with them. And I know Kita is dealing with several teams, but if we can get those teams in 11v11 league, I think that will make a big difference.
Terry?
I think the women's football has come a long way, and I do believe that if more was invested in women, I think Bermuda can be put on the map. And I agree with Leslie. I think had some of the earlier teams had the type of opportunities that they have now, we would already be on the map. And I think because we don't have a women's league, we need to try to find some other avenues so that these young ladies could play, because I know when I was in Trinidad, the women actually played in the under 13 boys league. And then when the women started dominating that league, they pushed them up to the under 15 boys league. So the women were getting better all along. And now, as you can see, the Trinidad's women's national team, they can hold their own. So I think those are some of the things we just need to find other avenues to get our young ladies and women so that they can play. And the other thing is, I think we need not eliminate people as early as we do age-wise, because we don't play as much football. So our players probably could play a little longer than we're allowing them to play. And then that allows the younger players to develop.
Any final question, Dennis?
Yeah, to everyone, I ask this question every week to guests. Give the current female player, what advice would you give the current female player who wants to go to the next level, whether it be collegiate level, whether it be trying out at a semi-pro, pro level? What advice would you give that female player?
Siobhan?
First of all, I would say you need to master your sport. And so that's going to require them to be mentally and physically capable to do that. They also need to study the sport, understand the different things that ever changing in football. So they need to know all of those things and put them together so that they can become the best players that they can be. You have to work hard, and you have to go out of your comfort zone if they want to make it to a whole nother level. So if they are aspiring to be professional players, whether it be in the States or overseas in the UK, that's a big pool. And so in order for them to stand out, they're going to have to make a lot of sacrifices to get there so that they can stand out and be able to get their job at a whole nother level.
Leslie?
Yeah, I agree with Siobhan. It's making the commitment and making the commitment a little earlier. So if you're looking to go to the collegiate level, don't start in your final year of high school. They're almost looking, if you're away, they're looking at you in, grade 9. So we need to sort of come up to that level. And I know Darren Lewis is doing an amazing job at Soltis right now with our student or prospective student athletes to try and get them ready and able to attend universities away, because like Terry said, we do have a lot of kids that are academically sound, and we just need to try and find them maybe through an athletic scholarship because the academic scholarship's not there, or try and get them something related to their art or their sport. But basically commitment, training, listening to who's coaching you, they do know what they're talking about. Think about your nutrition, getting your rest. And the big thing Siobhan's already mentioned too is sacrifice. And it could be, I'm going to choose between a birthday party or a training session, and it's a Friday night. Where do you want to go? Maybe that's a sacrifice you have to make. But you can work hard and you can play as well, but it's a time and a place for everything.
Terry?
I think if you truly want to take it to the next level, you have to be willing to do your extras. And just like Siobhan and Leslie said, you gotta be willing to make a sacrifice. So you have to be willing to put in extra, and it may mean dedicating yourself to your sport or your activity for a period of time to accomplish your goal, and then you can enjoy the other things that'll be there when you're finished. So make the commitment, commit yourself, and do your extras. And food and nutrition is very important. If you want to push your body to that level, you got to be putting the right things in it.
Well, I want to say thank you very much, ladies, for joining us here on a walk down memory lane. I know you guys got a chance to take each other back sometimes.
Big time.
Even reminiscing with Coach Braun here.
Big time.
So,
Siobhan,
Yeah.
Siobhan, which Braun was better?
Coaching?
Yeah.
Dennis.
Dennis is calling me now.
My nephew will tell you that too.
I think it was just more in Dennis's delivery. And at the stage that I was, when Dennis coached me, I was still a big sponge soaking things up. And so he had a lot of knowledge to pass on. And so that's why the experience for me with him was a lot more.
Okay. All right. Terry, you was jumping in there?
Yeah, I was saying, Coach Baston, I must say that between you and Dennis, I think you were definitely some of the most patient coaches. Because I know we could be very testy at times, and Coach Dennis just got us at a time where we just wanted to gain knowledge, and he just gave it to us. He just gave it to us. He was just, because I was coached by Vance as well, because I played with Ninja a little bit on Root Girls, but I have to admit, I'm a strictly St. George's person.
Mm-hmm.
But Coach Dennis made me think about Somerset.
But you know what? There's nothing wrong with thinking about it.
They're gonna be thinking about it.
Acting it out.
As long as you didn't go that way.
There you go. Hey,
Yeah,
guess what? Guess what?
Just made me have a
He came St. George's.
for Somerset.
Yeah, he came St. George's though.
Anyway.
It's smart. It's smart. It's smart.
Yeah.
Yep. Good decision.
Well, I want to say thanks again.
Yeah, I'm just tickled pink. It's just so nice to see Earl. I see you all the time, but it's just so nice to see you guys and Dennis and Ninja.
Yes,
to talk to you. Terry, I see around, but it's just so nice to catch up with you guys, and we should do it more. We had a special group of women back then.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah,
But
Siobhan was.
I heard we were having a women's walking football match.
Yeah, I keep talking about it in our committee,
Yeah,
but
I think we could do that.
we haven't. You know how hard it is to play walking football?
Earl, I wish they
I tried it with my nephew. It don't work.
Yeah.
It don't work. It don't work.
I ended up trying to give him a little Jamaican real foul, twisted my ankle.
That's
It's not gonna work.
Yeah, that's how I keep up with my students because all my injuries now. If they gotta walk. So yeah.
All right. Well, enjoy your night, guys.
Been a
Yeah,
pleasure,
thanks a
guys.
lot,
It's been a
guys.
pleasure.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.
All right.